You know, it's very difficult to try to take a year's worth of activity and condense it down into an hour and a half that I have to speak to you today. But I think I've got it. So bear with me. It is joy to be here with you once again, and I too enjoy this time in reviewing a lot of what's happened and a little bit about what we hope will happen. And I do have quite a bit to go through, so I'm just going to dive right into it with your permission. I do recognize that these screens, or this screen is small and you're not all going to be able to see it. I will ask Karen to email a link or the actual slide deck out if you want to see these pictures after the meetings. But we've taken great care not to put too many words on this slide and kill you with PowerPoint that way. So you're stuck with listening to me. Now, because there's been so much going on, I do have a limited amount of time, and I do want to tell you that any one of these subjects I could talk quite a long time about, and so by necessity they're brief, and that is not indicative of their level of importance. Next, and by the way, Karen is my slide clicker, and she told me just to point and do this, so if I do that, I'm not going crazy. I was told to do that. Click. Okay, probably the biggest news of the year was really a 3-year effort, not only with city staff, but of the master developer for the revived Star Bond district and effort. I've been asked many times to put that very succinctly, and the best way I can explain that in a couple of sentences is if you can prove out a destination retail, entertainment, and tourism development to the state, this legislation will allow the municipality to capture the state's portion of the state sales tax and pledge along with our local portion in such a way that you can borrow proceeds, bond them against those future revenues for 23 years in order to build out that destination development to begin with. So we got word from the state after 3 years worth of effort in August that was approved, and the city council had a public hearing in September, I think 3 months ago tonight, if I'm not mistaken. And that was our last statutory requirement in order to approve that development to happen. And so that where we're at with that right now is the state will start setting aside those funds on January 1st, right, just a couple of weeks from now. And the master developer and the city are undergoing the underwriting process with the bonding council and underwriters in order to determine exactly what that looks like. And we are required to start bonding within 180 days of January 1st. So that is an agreement with the state of Illinois, and you can look forward to some activity starting to happen there very soon. And again, this is one of those things I could talk about for my full hour and a half allotment, but I'm not going to. Click. Also in September, we moved into a long-anticipated move into the new City Hall. I just want to briefly, I know we have some officials here from First Southern Bank who I like to think partnered with us in many ways on this project. I say that because they all but donated the building to the city of Marion in order to do this project. Don't want to put too many words in their mouth, but they found themselves, like a lot of banks, with a little bit of extra square footage than probably what they needed, and recognizing that that building is a cornerstone piece of real estate important really to the square and the future of the square. The city council decided to accept that gift, and we've invested about $4 million in that project. But the most important thing is that it's going to serve our constituents much better than the old City Hall, which we found ourselves very restrictive in terms of not having an elevator and having to send people back out to the square, down the hill, back to the back of the building for certain services that were downstairs. We were not handicapped equipped in that building or ADA compliant, and it just didn't work super well. So we're super excited. I know many of you did attend just in the last week our open house and ribbon cutting that we had on the 5th. We're very proud of the building. If you missed it, please come by and any one of us would be happy to take you through the building and show you how it's going to serve you in this community for the next 100 years. Next slide, please. Last year, or really longer than just last year, but for a long time, city officials, including a partnership with the city of Carbondale and many other agencies, worked on the prospect of getting an additional airline to fly into Marion. Oddly enough, in the middle of all that, Cape Air decided they were terminating service to Marion, which really ramped up the effort. And in August, we're glad that the Contour Airlines, which is a 30-seat regional jet that flies directly from Marion to Chicago O'Hare, started. And I had a couple of statistics I want to tell you about because it really proves out the point of everything that we hoped would happen with that airline. If you're comparing it year over year, I'm told, with Cape Air's passenger service, there's been about 1,000 additional passengers just in these last 4 months that have embarked on the airline. But here's the more important figure. About 400 of that 1,000 were outbound, additional outbound passengers. 600 were inbound. So that's a different, if you put a different way of saying it, is 1.5 times the people are coming into Southern Illinois than are going out of Southern Illinois on the margin with this new regional jet service. We believe that this is critical as we build our tourism economy, as we build our retail economy, as we hope to help be a piece of the rebuilding and increase efforts for Southern Illinois University and a lot of the other large regional employers that we have here. It's working. I know the data is only 4 months old, but it's working well thus far, and we look forward to many more great outcomes in the future. Click. Okay, 2 or 3 transportation and safety improvements just to mention that you might have just driven by and wondered what that was or going on. There's a new pedestrian crossing at Ray Fosse Park in the middle of D. Young. I know that's in social media and stuff, that's gotten a little bit of shade thrown at it. But here's the reality. Regardless, there's something to not having what the state calls mid-block crossings. So there are crossings at the stoplights, but there obviously is no stoplight there at the park. And despite that, no matter how many signs and flashing lights and things you put, people want to cross right there. And unfortunately, 2 years ago in September, we had a fatality there because of someone that was wanting to cross. So this pedestrian crossing is really a median in the middle of what was the turn lane there that is an area of shelter for people to get. If you think of it simply, they have to cross half the road at a time, not the entire road at a time, and that's what that's for. That was an IDOT project, and it was funded by Illinois Department of Transportation, and despite the shade that's being thrown at it, that is a safer way to cross there, and I'm proud that project was taken, that they took on that project. Very pleased to report that as of Friday, the Westminster Bridge is reopened. That's been a hot, holy mess for a better part of a year. And it's a great improvement. It includes a sidewalk, or will include a sidewalk, and part of the new bike trail that eventually will run from Carbondale all the way to the CRISP complex, I believe, there on the other side of the bridge. So what a great improvement. That's a huge investment, again, on the part of Illinois Department of Transportation. We're very grateful for that. The city went ahead as that was the original bridge, by the way, and was not wide enough to accommodate school buses safely. And so that was the impetus for a lot of that. We went ahead and decided while that was being done, to improve Westminster to include sidewalks and additional drainage that was sorely needed in that area. And that project is complete, including a stoplight there at the end of Westminster and Carbon, which hopefully will help alleviate the traffic concerns, particularly with the student traffic there at the high school. One thing I talked about last year at this meeting, which had not started yet, was the introduction of what we called the Wildcat route, which was a fixed bus route service from Rides Mass Transit. You may have seen those buses with the Wildcat route logo on the side. of all the things in the last 4+ years that I've been here and my team have been here, this might be the thing that I'm most proud of. And it's probably slipped kind of under the radar and under most people's recognition, probably particularly in this room, to be honest. The reason I'm most proud is, and we're not done, by the way, with that. We've got only 3, I think, bus shells put up, but this is intended to be a loop. It is a loop all the way around this, well, not completely around the city. We want to expand it to the east particularly, but this was envisioned and it is intended and it is working as a very low-cost method to get reliable, on-time transportation, about 12 hours of the day, not only to workplaces, but to healthcare facilities and grocery facilities across town. And it costs at most somebody $1 to ride this route. And we're so proud of that, and I feel like, of all things to be proud of, that it might be one of our greatest accomplishments, frankly. Very happy and pleased with Rides Mass Transit and their partnership. This is funded through the federal government with them. The city did not participate in it, except that we've paid for some of the bus shells. And there have been 33,000 rides on that fixed route since March. So I think that is self-explanatory that that's working. Thanks. Okay, let's talk about some new business openings and some expansions. First of all, I wanted to highlight, that's the left picture here. I know these pictures are small. Again, we will send these pretty pictures out to you later so that you could ooh and ah over them. Ison, their Marion Logistics Center opened at nearly a new 500,000 square feet warehouse. That is about an investment of $37+ million, and they're adding about 50 new jobs. But of course, Ison is not in Marion city limits proper, but it is our largest employer, and just an astounding effort by so many people 20+ years ago to bring them, including Dutch Daly, which I see over here to my left, that was integral in that process, Glenn Clarida, who was, and many others that were so instrumental in bringing Ison here. And what a difference that's made to our community over all these years, and continues to this day. And that's evidenced even most recently by the fact that Forbes magazine has named Ison the 8th best employer in the state of Illinois. So all of those that are with Ison here today, I know there's some of you, would you stand and be recognized, please? Thank you so much for all you do for our community. We do appreciate you. Steve Fowler and his team continue to make progress on the former Woolworth building on the southwest corner of the square. And that is going to be the future home to Seasonings Bistro on the ground level, and some luxury apartments, I believe, on the second story. La Fiesta, renovated and recently opened in the former Pizza Hut, another building that had gone vacant and unused, and so pleased and happy for that family. They're an extraordinarily great family and part of our fabric here in Marion. So proud of them. Little Nashville Cafe on the Square is one of the most unique venues that we have in Marion, and I'm so proud of that. Was blessed to have early conversations with Aaron Smith, and as he zoned in on that vision, and it was just exciting from the very first day. And then you tear into these old buildings and figure out how long it takes, and figure out how crazy you must have been. But you look at all that's going on, particularly with the old buildings, and the dedication that these owners have taken, and I extend that gratitude to you, Aaron. What a terrific business you've created there in such a unique environment. We're so proud of you. Thank you. One of my favorite new businesses is Glacier's Inn, that's in the alley next to City Hall, new City Hall. It's between Tom Wolf's office, if you know where that's at, in Pitt Road, and Hill Printing. It's right in that alley. And they have been recently named a member of the Illinois MAID, and that's a designation made by the Illinois Offices of Tourism and the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and Governor Pritzker, highlighting all the unique products manufactured in Illinois. I want to tell you that my favorite product is out, which is called Hellish Relish. You can't buy it. Whatever they've got is just for me. Seriously, I was a little bit embarrassed to learn that they actually have a stash that they call the mayor's stash. I thought the mayor's stash was this. But apparently, there's a cupboard in there with extra jars of Hellish Relish. But it's a great restaurant, again, very unique. I love these businesses that have something that you just can't get online and you can't get anywhere else. And Marion's so blessed to have a number of those opportunities that are here now that weren't here until recently. So we're so proud of Glacier's End as well. Of course, FedEx made a big splash with their hundreds of thousands of square feet of a distribution center that opened this year. Very proud that along with them and Readers Link and Eisen, of course, and of course our mainstay Marion, our Pepsi Mid-America now have these large employers, large distribution centers that take advantage of our geography with the interstate, but more importantly invest in our economy and in our locals with the jobs. And just could not be happier on that end of the scale of business development in Marion. Another personal favorite of mine, unfortunately to my waistline, is Granny Puckett's on the Square. Another fascinating story. I think I may have mentioned that in meetings that we've had in the past, but this is a great example of somebody with a vision and that the city staff was able to introduce to the right people that believed in that vision and helped them bring it to fruition. And boy, bringing it to fruition it is. What a great business that is. If you have not been there, not only is the business itself robust, but the building that it's housed in is just fantastic, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's see, did I not click enough times?
You're good.
Click. Some businesses that are already open on the west side of Marion is Take 5 and 7 Brew, and of course Olive Garden that opened in November. And under construction, as you see with some of these logos, we have, these are either under construction or will be shortly breaking ground: Chick-fil-A, Raising Cane's, Chipotle, Mach 1, and Dunkin' Donuts. So that area is obviously filling up, and that's, I believe, in anticipation of the Star Bonds District taking off. And these companies are recognizing what potential Marion has in the future with that development and are taking the leap and taking the plunge, and we're happy for that and very grateful for them. Click. Okay, let's move to this building a little bit. The pavilion is, of course, owned by the city of Marion, and there's just such a variety of events that happen here, including one that I want to point out, which was another example of somebody local to Southern Illinois that had a vision and came to me and wanted to know if we would support this, which I thought was super cool. And they call it the Ultimate Brick Show because apparently you can't say Lego without their permission. But what a terrific exhibition that drew people from 12 different states in here to build their creations again and display them here. And that was great. We're already planning and setting the stage for a 2-day show in 2024. If you did not, even if you're not into Legos, everybody in this room can appreciate what these folks, how passionate they are. And so please stop by the next time. Click. Okay, can't not mention all the downtown improvements that we've done. The ice rink had very significant success in its first year. I think I explained last year a little bit about our vision, not just for the ice rink, but this whole endeavor is called placemaking. Jennifer Olson has taught me a lot about placemaking, and I think I pointed out that the city square proper is really the only real estate the city of Marion owns, aside from the fire department, this building, and that kind of thing. But as far as a public gathering place, the square is it. Now, as a kind of trivia question, does anybody know what year by raising, you can just blurt it out or raise your hand, what year the square was designed and laid out? Anybody?
1861.
I got an 1861. Do you have a guess?
When they split the counties.
Oh, 1837.
Oh, you're close.
1839.
1839.
Outstanding.
There are several gifts here on the table for you. The only reason I bring this up is this is a challenge. I'll give you another opportunity for a trivia question. How many cars pass through the square on any given day?
30,000.
It might be the world's first roundabout, by the way. How many?
120,000.
Oh my goodness.
22,000. 12,300.
What'd you say?
12,300.
You're closest. There's about 9,000 cars a day that go through there. Now, let's bring it together. What did not exist in 1839? Our challenge is how to incorporate this placemaking with the reality of today's world of cars. This was laid out for horses and buggies, and not for automobiles and semi-trucks, and that go way too fast on two wheels around the square. So what we will commence with this next spring is a continuation of this, which is the streetscape part of the downtown, which will hopefully slow the traffic a little bit down there and allow at the same time a little bit more traffic to go through there, which sounds like a contradiction in terms, but we'll see how it works out. But back to the ice rink, there are thousands of people that attended and used the ice rink last winter, and we are seeing that same pace this year, including, as you see in the pictures here, a lot of the other improvements with the fountains, the water wall. This is all serving to draw more and more people downtown as the placemaking, people enjoying the aesthetics, more importantly, to support all the small businesses that are now on the square, reinvigorated, and to support them. One of the things, Click, that we did, I just have to mention this because I'm afraid this is one of those things that if you don't know about it and you're not purposeful about it, you'll just never stumble across this. One of my favorite things that we did all year long was dedicate a new monument to a very historical, I believe, the most historical event that ever happened on the square in Marion, which was in August of 1861. So we celebrated the 162nd anniversary of that speech by dedicating this new monument. I'm not going to tell you the whole story of that, but that's the basis is General Logan came there, and he is credited on that day with keeping Southern Illinois loyal to the Union, which was very questionable at that point in time in history, or whether that was going to be the case. In fact, it was going the other way at that time. To me, the most interesting part of that story was that Mrs. Logan had planted one of his former comrades, soldiers from the Mexican War, in the crowd, a man named Luke Sanders, that at the end played the fife, which we would know today as a piccolo. And that's when, at that point, 110 men joined ranks and formed a regiment and started marching around the square. And I love that part of the story. And it's such a surprise, but as you see in the far right-hand picture, I believe 5 of Luke Sanders' direct descendants came and attended that ceremony. And that was so great. And Luke Sanders' fife, incidentally, is at the Murfreesboro John A. Logan Museum, so if you ever want to go see that, that would be a good historical opportunity. Click. Now, all this placemaking and all these things that we've been doing is working, and it's bringing people here, and thanks to groups like a new not-for-profit named Marion Connects, that is, among other things, started a event called Third Thursdays, which you can probably derive from the name, is the third Thursday of each month. And they've had so many different kinds of events that's brought hundreds and hundreds of people and children downtown. And we typically will close part of the square, sometimes the whole square, depending on whether we're having line dancing or not. And I could not be more proud of the fact that there are organizations like Marion Connects that are using our space and reinvigorating downtown. I really can't say enough about them. They're doing a stellar job. Click. Part of what we envisioned 4 or 5 years ago that we enacted was a change in the business model at the Civic Center and at the Pavilion. The Civic Center business model was changed so that the city supported it with newer, or not newer, but bigger and bigger events, bigger names for that venue to come perform at. It's so hard to tell in that middle picture, but that little scatter plot of the United States is a picture of where all the tickets were sold to the Civic Center in the last year. That represents well over 1,000 unique zip codes. And we've had many, many sellout shows. And this is all in an effort to really do several things, but the two primary things is to provide diverse opportunity to have culture and entertainment, as the Civic Center is aptly named. But the second reason is every one of those people that attends that concert usually eats here, stays here, shops here, and sees Marion, many of them, for their very first time in their lives. That effort is working, and it's having such a positive impact on our downtown businesses, our hotels, and nearly every other sector of our local economy. Click. Very Merry Marion, which is still going on, but this is our second year with that, including holiday-themed events, including the parade, which was the Sunday after Thanksgiving, which we believe drew over 10,000 people on that route. Interestingly, to me, over 13,000 people visited the Clydesdales right here in this building during their open stable viewing at the Pavilion. That was made possible, incidentally, by Jim Pugh and Golden Eagle Distributing to be able to offer that. And I'm so proud that so many people got to experience those magnificent animals close up and for free. So I don't know if we can pull that off again, by the way, but we're going to try. We've also had an expanded holiday market over the last 2 weekends down by what was First Christian Church on North Market Street, now we call Market Street Hall. And still having carriage rides, which are very popular and have been sold out, including ice skating, Santa visits, and again, all of this has increased foot traffic downtown to support all our small businesses. Now, when I talked about Granny Puckett's earlier, I said I would mention that a little bit later. And I've got to make a special acknowledgement here to Jeff Mayer. I don't know how many of you know Jeff. Jeff's a competitor of mine in the car business, and he owns Marion Toyota, and a high school classmate of mine. One of the most encouraging things that happened while I was running for this office, and more significantly while I've been in this office, is discovering people that are just as and maybe far more passionate about revitalizing certain parts of downtown and the older parts of town as I am. Jeff, I never knew this until, again, I raised my hand, but he is super passionate about this and proverbially putting his money where his mouth is. Jeff bought the Goodall building as a project, and he has spent probably an obscene amount of money to make that building not just nice, but relevant for the next 100 years. So I could not be more proud of Jeff. He's got, of course, Granny Puckett's at the bottom level and the foundation room, which is a rentable event space next to that, as well as 4 luxury apartments that are upstairs. Jeff does intend, and has not quite yet found a tenant or a business model for it, but to have another restaurant in the basement of that building, like a restaurant was there when I grew up. But most recently, Jeff was honored on a statewide level by Landmarks Illinois for an award because of his preservation of that Goodall building. And that's a picture of Jeff and Tabitha up in Chicago receiving that award. And so if you see Jeff, please thank him for his investment in that building as well. He also has other projects in the hopper, including a commercial building on Jefferson Street, just 2 streets, I believe, down from the Goodall, and has a tenant for that too. So that we'll look forward to that coming along soon, hopefully in 2024. Click. Okay, our housing needs continue to grow. We do have large rental complexes and popular subdivisions such as Phase 11 of Morningside coming online. Most of these are renting and or selling before they're completed. Now I mention this because all this economic activity that's happening, which frankly most of it hasn't even yet begun to start with STAR bonds, is going to put a strain on our housing stock and our housing market. So I'm asking you, what am I asked today, is that you reach out, if you're not in the real estate industry, you certainly know those that are, please talk up Marion as the place to build and to locate. And ask for investment here because we're going to need it. What we don't want is us to build all this business activity just for people to live solely in other places. We know that that's inevitable. Sometimes that's going to happen. Our population already doubles during the day because of people coming here to work. But what we don't want is all those paycheck dollars going to other communities entirely. We need them to stay here and circulate here. As you'll recall last year, my call to action was to spend your money here because that dollar circulates between 5 and 7 times before it leaves our economy. So I said that in the context of think about it before you click, make your money stick here. But this, and that was alluding to before you click and buy something online and send it to China or to Washington State, spend your dollar here first. But the same applies for having the workers that we need in Marion. We also need them to live here. And for them to live here, we're going to need more housing. So that's an ask that I have of you today, is consider reaching out to those that are in that business and ask them to consider Marion. I don't have a slide on this, but in the sense of housing, I did want to mention one very successful thing that maybe the second thing that I'm most proud of is what we did early on in 2020 is we put the first residential TIF district in the oldest part of town. TIF has generally not been used statewide. It has in some places, but certainly not in Marion for residential purposes. And our goal here was to incite, inspire, and in some cases, make grants in order to have people improve their properties, hoping that that would catch fire and that the keeping up with the Joneses thing would work in a virtuous way as opposed to seeing our neighborhoods continue to decline. So we put into effect the first residential TIF grant program. This past year, we granted $250,000 out, $5,000 at a time, which actually ended up, the spend in that area on improvements to homes was well over $500,000. We hope to be able to do this each and every year. This was not a one and done type situation. After we put in residential TIF 1, we put in residential TIF 2 on the west side and southwest side of Marion, and we hope as money builds up in that TIF that we'll replicate that program. And so that's our support and our commitment to helping rebuild the oldest parts of town. So running short on time, so I'll just wrap up by saying this. Citizens of Marion, the state of our city is very, very strong. And I'm so proud of my team and all that they inspire to do, aspire to do. And I'm so proud of all of you, our business community, for keeping it all going and for all of your continued investment. I want you to know that for us to continue to grow, we need your further help. And you've got a card, I believe, on your tables. And I'd like for you to take a moment before you leave here today to fill it out. Because we have more to do. We have yet more to discover, more to think of. The one hallmark, there's more than one, but one hallmark of, I believe, our administration at the city is we recognize we don't have all the answers. I'll give you several other hallmarks. We have no problem stealing somebody else's idea and running with it. Third hallmark, we pride ourselves on not being bureaucratic. We pride ourselves, it's inevitable when it comes to cities and things like that, so you do have some red tape, you do have some things you have to go through, but we're all approachable, easy to talk to, and I want to leave this with you. We seek every day to figure out how to say yes. So if you've got a great idea, or even if you've got a crappy idea, please bring it to us. Because probably the most common thing, I hear Jennifer talking about this all the time, is that as she does outreach, from people that say, well, I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know that was possible, I didn't think the city would allow it. Well, you certainly won't if you don't ask. And I think there's a perceived barrier there in a lot of people's mind. I just want to assure you that we want to hear from you. We want to know what those ideas are. We can't have all the ideas, and we have a very limited amount of throughput just because there's only so many people that work for the city. We need all your help, your ideas, and your energy. So I would like for you not only to fill out this card, but I'd like for you to reflect as we move into 2024 as to whatever that change is that you'd like to see in the community, which is what I'm asking from you on this card, is what can you do in 2024 to be a part of that change? The last thing you all want to do is leave it solely up to us. We can only do so much in a given week or month or year, but together we can accomplish nearly the impossible. So if you think it's impossible, bring it up. Let's see how possible we can make your idea. Now, I've spent the last 20 minutes telling you how great I think our community is, but again, we need you to help make that dream a reality. We're here, always. We're approachable. We answer the phone, we answer the door, and we'll talk to you about anything. So please fill out that card. Please reflect on what you can do to plug into the change you want to see in 2024. And drop those cards off either with me, Jennifer, Rachel, Cody, or just leave them on your table and we'll grab them on our way out. And lastly, I want to wish all of you a bombastically successful 2024, a very Merry Christmas, and may God bless you, may God bless our nation, and may God continue to bless the city of Marion, Illinois. Thank you so much.
You can do whatever, if you want to take some questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah.